we start off with types of malware. So the first malware is ransomware. The characteristic is it encrypts files or log system, then demand for a ransom, usually in cryptocurrency for this decryption from the company that they had. And then this typically spread via phishing emails, malicious attachments, or compromised websites. This ransomware can cause major disruptions by making data or system inaccessible. Next type of malware is viruses, which it can attach itself to legitimate programs or files, and it wait for the user action to spread. It often spread also via email attachments, downloads from infected websites, or removable media like USB drivers. It can corrupt, delete, or steal data, slow down or crash system, or disable security features. Third types of malware is worms, which it is a standalone malicious program that can self-replicate without waiting for the user's action, and it can spread across networks by exploiting vulnerabilities in operating system or software. It can consume bandwidth and overload system, which leading to network slowdowns or outages. Fourth type of malware is the Trojan horse. It can disguise as legitimate software but contain hidden malicious functions, and they do not self-replicate. It can be delivered through phishing emails, infected downloads, or pirated software. Users could be unknowingly install them thinking they are a safe program. And it can give attackers remote access to system to steal credentials, spy on users, or even install additional malware. Last type of malware is spyware. It covertly gathers information about users or organization without their consent. It often includes keyloggers and tracking software. It can be bundled with freeware or shareware and spread also via phishing or installed through drive-by downloads. And the impact is to steal sensitive information like login credentials, financial data, and intellectual property. In businesses, spyware can lead to identity theft, fraud, or competitive espionage.
Let's dive into the details. The target of this attack was the Colonial pipeline company, which operates the largest refined products pipeline in the US, supplying nearly half of the East Coast field. In May 2021, their operations were brought to a grinding halt by a ransomware attack. The specific malware used was DarkSide ransomware, known for its ransomware as a service model. The initial entry point, or attack vector, was incredibly simply yet effective: a compromised VPN account password. Crucially, this was a legacy account, and it completely lacked multi-factor authentication, a critical detail we will revisit. The impact of this attack was immediate and severe. Colonial Pipeline proactively initiated a full operational shutdown of their entire 5,500-mile pipeline. This wasn't because the ransomware directly hit the operational systems, but out of concern it could spread from their infected IP network. This shutdown quickly led to widespread fuel shortages and panic buying across numerous states on the East Coast, creating scenes of long lines at gas stations. The economic disruption was significant, affecting transportation and other industries. Colonial Pipeline ultimately paid approximately $4.4 million in Bitcoin to the DarkSide group, though some of that was later recovered. Beyond the immediate financial costs, the incident underscored serious national security implications, prompting an urgent U.S. executive order on cybersecurity. So, how did this happen? The core problem lay in several critical vulnerabilities. Foremost was the lack of multi-factor authentication, or MFA, on that VPN access. A single compromised password was all it took. This highlights the danger of legacy or unmanaged accounts that are left active but unsecured. Furthermore, the need to shut down the entire pipeline hinted at insufficient network segmentation. If IT and operational networks were more robustly isolated, the concern of ransomware spreading might have been mitigated, potentially avoiding a full shutdown. And while not the direct entry, a general weakness in patching and vulnerability management can always create more opportunities for attackers to move through a network once they are in. These vulnerabilities collectively allowed a relatively straightforward cyber attack to have a devastating real-world impact on critical infrastructure and the daily lives of millions.
Now, let's move on to part 3, malware response and mitigation plan. First one, we have prevention. Prevention is better than cure. Preventing a malware attack from happening is certainly better than curing the malware attack. There are 4 main elements of prevention, which is policy, awareness, vulnerability mitigation, and threat mitigation. Now, as such, here are the 4 main elements of preventing malware attacks. First one is policy. Colonial Pipeline should have updated the policies on staffs and clients. For example, Colonial Pipeline should have made it clear that any type of software attacks will be held accountable, and that is to include both the staffs and the management for it. Now, Colonial Pipeline was breached through a VPN account, so staff should be held accountable for not noticing sooner, and the management should be held accountable for the weakness in the security checking. Second, we have awareness. Colonial should have raised the awareness of their staff on how to handle the situation if it happens again. For example, Colonial Pipeline can also train their employees to recognize suspicious activities or phishing attempts. Now, early stage suspicious activities or insider compromise can be spotted much earlier before an attack. Third, we have vulnerability mitigation. Even if Colonial Pipeline have 10 defense systems installed, there will always be imperfection in it, hence the mitigation needed. For example, Colonial Pipeline can do a regular software checking, periodic vulnerability evaluation, and disabling unused software. These unsecured VPN that made way for the attackers is a critical vulnerability and should be a priority. Last but not least, threat mitigation. Threat mitigation is a direct counter towards cybersecurity attacks and should be the most prioritized step. For example, securing firewalls, multi-factor authentications, antivirus software, and endpoint protection. Now, threat mitigations is more of a cure than to a malware attack, and it should be the last line of defense for the company. Next up, we have detection. Now, in Cambridge Dictionary, detection means the fact of noticing or discovering something. Detecting malware attacks is crucial to make necessary preventions and adjustments to the Colonial Pipeline. Here are three major detection methods that we have found. First, log monitoring and SIEM. Log monitoring is an act of collecting information from logs on various systems, for example, firewalls, servers, and applications, to make it easier to analyze the potential threats they have. Security Information and Event Management, or SIEM system, compiles these logs and looks for anomalies or patterns across the set server. Now, in Pipeline's case, SIEM could have detected the VIP logging at unusual places and prevented the attack. Second, we have Endpoint Detection and Response, EDR. Now, some of the more popular EDRs are CrowdStrike Falcon and Microsoft Defenders that have been trusted worldwide. CrowdStrike specializes in cloud information protection, while Microsoft Defender is included in Microsoft 365 subscription. Now, these EDRs will look for unusual behaviors and report it immediately to the user or to the company. Third, we have File Integrity Monitoring, FIM. Now, multiple coding tools like Tripwire and the open source OSSEC could have been utilized by Colonial Pipeline. These codes are triggered when files are either added, modified, or when files are deleted from the software. FIM could have detected the file encryption from that site and forcibly isolated the system to prevent further damage to the company's database.
So next is containment. So as defined by Cyber 2023, containment is the process of isolating a cyber threat to prevent further damage. So cybersecurity professionals use containment to block attackers from accessing sensitive data or harming additional parts of the system. So a great real-world example is the Colonial Pipeline incident. So let's break it down to 4 key containment strategies. So the first one is limiting the threat's impact. So Colonial shut down its pipeline operation and isolated IT system. So this prevented the ransomware from spreading to its industrial control system, avoiding a major disruption to physical operation. Next is reverting to safe states. So if backup or snapshot were available, Colonial could restore compromised servers and clean system configuration. These would erase attacker changes and minimize downtime. The third one is cloning for investigation. Security teams could clone affected systems to create forensic images for offline analysis. So this allows safe examination of the ransomware behavior and any data theft without risking further spread. So the fourth one is resource scaling. So Colonial may have used cloud platforms or unaffected system to continue critical functions like incident response and customer communication. So this ensured business continuity during the containment phase. Continuing with containment strategies used in the Colonial Pipeline case, here are 4 more key actions. So the fifth one is resource isolation. So Colonial successfully isolated infected systems by separating their operational technology, OT, and informational technology, IT, networks. So this critical infrastructure best practice helped prevent the ransomware from spreading further within the organization. So number 6 is enhanced access controls. So the company likely limited admin rights, disabled remote access, and tightened firewall rules. So they also blocked outbound traffic to known dark side command and control servers and restricted user permission to prevent lateral movement within the network. So number 7 is data backup and recovery. So if online backups were available, Colonial could restore essential business data like billing system and operational schedules. So this emphasized the importance of regular, offline, and immutable backups in cyber resilience. And the last one, forensic analysis. By isolating infected system, security teams were able to investigate how the attack occurred, whether through phishing, stolen VPN credential, or other methods. So they could assess whether data was exfiltrated and support law enforcement, such as the FBI, in tracking the dark side code. So together, this step reflect a comprehensive containment approach that limits impact, supports recovery, and strengthens future defenses. Once a cyber threat has been identified and contained, the next crucial step is eradication. So according to Thor Pedersen 2024, eradication is the complete removal of the threat from the affected system. So what are the steps of eradication? So the first one is identify all affected systems. So the first step is to scan the environment to locate all compromised systems. This includes finding malware-affected files, unauthorized remote access tools like Covert Strike, and compromised credentials. Security teams also check firewall data, system logs, and endpoint detection tools for indicators of compromise. The second one is remove ransomware files and artifacts. So next, all ransomware executables and associated files must be removed. Teams eliminate persistent mechanisms such as malicious scripts, registry charges, scheduled tasks, and any harmful processes or services running on the system. The third one is patch exploit vulnerabilities. So finally, vulnerabilities used by the attackers must be addressed. For example, if VPN credentials were compromised, those accounts should be revoked and reset. Any unpatched system must be updated immediately. It's also essential to enable multi-factor authentication on all remote access points. So let's continue with more critical steps in the eradication process following a cybersecurity incident. So the fourth one is reset compromised credential. All accounts used during the attack must have their password reset, especially privileged accounts like service account and domain admins. So it's also important to audit and remove any unnecessary privileges. So the fifth one is scan for and remove persistent mechanism. So attackers often leave behind ways to re-enter system. So look for scheduled tasks, window registry startup entries, backdoors or hidden admin accounts, and remove or disable them completely. So number 6 is re-image or restore system. If certain system can't be fully cleaned, the best option is to re-image them using secure baseline images or restore them from clean backups. So number 7 is validate the clean state. Run full vulnerability and malware scans to confirm that all threats are gone. Test system functionality and ensure no hidden data, exfiltration channels or backdoors remain. And the last one is document and update security measures. Finally, document everything that was removed and how. Record all steps taken to prevent future incidents, and update your security policies such as firewall settings, endpoint protection, and user access control. So this step ensure not only full removal of the threat, but also strengthen the organization defense moving forward.
As for the recovery, which is the procedures for restoring affected systems to normal operation, firstly, the immediate actions and network shutdown. On May 7, 2021, Colonial Pipeline discovered a ransomware infiltration. They then took immediate and decisive action by proactively shutting down the entire pipeline system and network. The shutdown was aimed to prevent further compromise and contain the threat. They successfully protected the operational technology network, which controls wealth movement, and no direct damage occurred to the pipeline's core functionality. The shutdown was also due to the inability to bill customers as the ransomware targeted the billing infrastructure. Secondly, the decision to pay the ransom. Colonial Pipeline decided to pay the ransom on May 7, 2021, the same day the attack was discovered. They transferred approximately 75 bitcoins, which was $4.5 million at the time, to the dark side hackers. The payment was made within hours of detecting the attack, and the decision driven by uncertainty about the breach extent and recovery timeline. And the company aimed to expedite restoration by obtaining the attacker's decryption key. So the timeline and technical steps in restoring operations. Firstly, on May 6, the attack was launched, so the data was stolen and computers were locked. On May 7, Colonial Pipeline shut down its system and paid the ransom. On May 8, public announcement of the attack and restart planning. On May 9, they confirmed ransomware was involved, some smaller lines were restored, and FBI notified about it. May 10, the FBI confirmed DarkSide responsible, and manual restoration of some lines began. May 11, federal agencies shared advisory on DarkSide ransomware. On May 12, full pipeline system restart began at 5 p.m. East Time, and on the May 15, all systems were fully restored. So the Colonial warned supply chain delivery would take days to return to normal. So the law enforcement's role in ransom recovery here. On May 9, 2021, FBI was notified of the ransomware attack. On 7 June 2021, DOJ announced seizure of 63.7 bitcoins, which worth $2.3 million at the time. The recovered amount was about 85% of the original 75 bitcoins paid as ransom. Due to Bitcoin's price drop, the recovered funds equal only half of the original $4.5 million in value. The FBI tracked the ransom through the Bitcoin public ledger to a specific digital wallet. The authorities obtained the private key to unlock the wallet, which method not disclosed. The operation showed cryptocurrency traceability and improved law enforcement capabilities using blockchain analysis. As for the communication aspect, firstly, the internal communication, which navigating the initial chaos, the attack began with an employee receiving a $4.5 million ransom demand at 5 a.m. The employee quickly escalated the issue, leading to a prompt shutdown decision. The shutdown helped contain the threat and protected critical control systems. The incident exposed gaps in internal communication and decision-making processes. PHMSA proposed a $1 million penalty for procedural failures and poor planning for manual operations. The breach traced to a compromised VPN password and lack of multi-factor authentication (MFA). It highlighted the need for better cybersecurity training and internal preparedness. The post-attack reforms included mandatory staff training and stronger security protocols. It emphasized on clear, practical incident response plans and regular tabletop exercises, so internal communication must move beyond policies to become ongoing, hands-on engagement. So next, the external communication reshaping the public perception and stakeholder trust. On May 9, 2021, Colonial Pipeline released its first public statement confirming a cybersecurity attack and a proactive system shutdown to contain the threat. The messaging aimed to acknowledge the incident, provide basic facts, and allow time for investigation and planning. On May 10, the company stated goal to restore operations by the end of the week, setting public expectations. Then, the controversy arose over ransom payment. They paid $4.5 million to dark site hackers on May 7 but did not confirm publicly until reports from external sources surfaced. This delayed disclosure appeared reactive, raising the transparency concerns. CEO Joseph Blount later justified the payment as the right thing to do for the country to speed up recovery. However, the decryption tool provided was ineffective and the recovery relied mostly on internal backups. Public panic and societal impact. The shutdown led to a panic buying and fuel shortages, especially in the southeastern US. Government officials, including President Biden, Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, and Energy Secretary Granholm, made public appeals for calm. US Consumer Product Safety Commission warned people against unsafe fuel storage like plastic bags. It showed that corporate messaging alone was insufficient to control the public fear. It required federal communication support. The media and public perception. The incident became major breaking news across national and global media. CEO engaged with media post-criticism, but communication was largely reactive. The lack of proactive narrative control allowed public speculation and reputational damage. It highlighted the need for trained spokespeople, clear messaging, and strategic media engagement during cyber crisis.